Hey, thanks for joining me today for this episode of Curves Welcome, a podcast about facing and embracing the curves of life. If this is your first time tuning in, this is Suzie Carr. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. I'd like to welcome a special guest with me here today on Curves Welcome podcast, Casey Luck. She's here to chat with us today about how to create a personal brand. Casey, it is great to have you here today.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Suzie.
So I have the pleasure of serving on the board of directors for the Golden Crown Literary Society with Casey as a director of membership.
Yes.
And I have also had the pleasure of reading some of your work. And one is specifically tattooed in my brain because of your ability to bring every single solitary sensory experience known to humankind into the written word. And that book is The Lesbian's Billionaire Club.
Oh,
Lord. Talk about a sensory experience.
Yeah, that's definitely one way to put it. Well, I'm glad to hear that you liked it. Definitely. It's probably my most popular selling book. So I've gotten better reviews on some of the others, but it's the candy that people are looking for when they want to read something just for a fantasy. So yeah.
I like that. The candy. Yeah. The sweets. Talking to the sweet tooth here. Yeah. Casey, could you talk a little bit about yourself, some things that you'd like my listeners to know about your writing, about maybe some of the work you do, and your current journey in life in terms of being able to speak on the topic of creating a personal brand?
Okay. Well, that's pretty broad. You've already said I'm Casey Luck, and you said I was a director of membership. So there's two things.
Check.
Check. I'm also an author. We discussed that a little bit. I've been writing as Casey Luck for 3 years, almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in March. And I've written 11 books and a bunch of short stories. So it's been I've written pretty fast and got a lot of stuff out there. I've also created a brand, which is we'll talk about here in a little bit. And in case one jumps up here, I also have cats. So
awesome.
So yeah, but my journey, let's see. I have written outside of lesbian fiction or women loving women fiction before and did not get much traction. And I didn't have a brand. I was kind of just swimming around in a giant pond. Nobody knew who I was, nothing sold. And then I started reading lesbian or women loving women fiction and thought, well, why don't I try this? Why don't I do something like that? And I started with science fiction because that's what I was writing outside of it. And it was popular. So then I wrote another one and another one and another one. And I found a home. And I really felt like I found a home where people appreciated me and my work. So yeah, that's my journey.
I love that. And, so from somebody who also writes women loving women fiction, I sort of entered into the fictional realm that way too. I started writing straight romance books, never published them. But then I realized, I read Karen Callmaker.
Yeah.
I read one of her books and I thought, oh, here's something I didn't consider. I never really delved into women loving women fiction before. And so that's how I started my journey into it too. I was the same way. I was like, what if instead of Emma and Scott, I do Emma and Haley? Oh yeah. And then the story just like wrote itself. Yes. So it's a really welcoming environment. It's a beautiful community of readers and writers and publishers. And I think that's probably why we're both directors of membership for the Golden Crown Literary Society, is that we truly believe in this genre and this just community of creative people who inspire me every day to get out there and continue writing, even though I've had a little bit of a break from it. But it's seeing that community come alive online in some of the Facebook groups reminds me of why it's so special. And it's, seeing your posts and my fellow author posts, it's really inspiring, and it makes me want to continue to just challenge myself as a writer. And so in terms of challenging yourself as a writer, before we get into the brand part of it, what are you trying to do in terms of your future with writing? Will you continue to write women loving women fiction? Will you continue to sort of blend that with science fiction? What are your plans? What do you see yourself doing in the future?
That's a good question, because 2021, there'll be a blend. There's going to be a blend of going back to straight or traditional writing. I'm working on a project actually with a co-author, because it takes a lot of time. And so that way I have time to also write women loving women fiction, because I don't want to let my readers down. So that's taxing. That's taxing, but that's what we're trying to do in 2021. And also, I'm hoping to convert a short story that I wrote recently to a screenplay that, you know, maybe can market to indie film producers or something like that in the future. So I think that story would fit and do well with the population that, you know, likes that kind of film. So yeah, I got things going on. I got irons in the fire, and I'm busy every day. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and start working. I do my marketing, I do my writing, and usually late into the evening as well. So yeah, lots going on.
Oh, let's get into the whole topic of personal brand. That's really, for me, it's a topic I love talking about because I'm a marketing professional and I struggle with the whole personal brand. But it's so incredibly important if you want to be able to root yourself out there in the community for people to know who you are. So, can you just first of all talk about what is a personal brand?
A personal brand's not a lot different than a corporate brand. It's what the public sees, and what they see and how you act is what they associate with your personality or who you are. So if you have a brand, then people, you know, have a personal brand, then that makes people want to maybe see more about you. Instead of just being a writer or an author, I'm also a bit of an entertainer. You know, I do more than just, you know, occasionally post about a book. And so that's my personal brand, you know, being more than just a person. It's a public facing persona, basically. I hate to say that because I am authentic, but
Yes.
it is basically how you present yourself to the public.
And that can be a challenge. I mean, I'm going to speak just for myself here. And when I first started writing, I had no idea about branding myself as a writer. I just knew, okay, I write books, I put them out there on Amazon, and I hope that they sell. And back in the day, back in 2011, when I first started publishing, that was possible to be able to do that and have your book sell. And I think it was because it was not, the market itself was not as not as competitive. And that might even be a strong word. In our genre, I don't think people are as competitive as in other genres. Yeah. But that being said, there are a lot of us out there writing books about women loving women. So right. In order to be able to have that connection with readers and for them to feel connected to you, it's important and imperative that they understand who you are. And part of that, like you just brushed on, is that authenticity.
Yes.
I know from reading certain posts in Facebook groups, people want to know that you're authentic, that who you are putting yourself out as is really who you are, because we're all about connection in this world. We want to be able to connect with people on a real human to human level. And that can be challenging for somebody who doesn't know what else they have to offer in terms of their readership other than being a writer. Right. So I like how you told us about you are an entertainer, and you are, because I've seen some of your videos, and that's who you are. And that when people see a post from you, they know that they are going to be entertained. That's really powerful. Now, did you set out to say, I'm going to make my brand, I'm going to entertain people, or did it just sort of happen naturally, and then you realized that it happened naturally and you're like, wait, there's a brand that I need to build around this?
Yeah, it was a little of both. Casey Luck is not my real name. So I actually am called Kathy in the real world. But Casey Luck was the name I went with. And it has kind of a brand feel to it, if you think about it. It's catchy and memorable. So, and my last name is Chance, ironically. So I went with Luck. So Kathy Chance is now Casey Luck. Now the whole world knows.
But, that's very catchy. I love it.
Yes, it was catchy, and it was a nice play on my name. So I went with Casey Luck. And that was after I had started posting a little bit already in the like lesbian readers, writers, and books, I think it's called. That's a big community.
Mm-hmm.
I started posting there as Kathy, and was getting a little bit of traction. But then I decided I should post as my pen name, and that way people will know whoever's posting is also the author. And that's kind of where it began. So I started doing that, and I let people know that I was changing, because otherwise they wouldn't make the transition. So it wasn't like I was tricking anybody or hiding from anybody, but just want to make sure there was a brand. But it really evolved when I had my third book come out, and I told the public that I would dance if it made the top 10. I would dance on a video. So that was when it really got going. It really got going. I mean, before that, I posted and was usually upbeat. I did a few videos and lots of graphics and some readings from my books. But that was really when people thought, if we see Casey Luck, we will see something fun. We will see someone smiling. We will see someone happy. We will see someone who wants to make us smile as well. And that translated over to people thinking, well, I should read her books. They'll probably make me feel the same way. I've actually gotten that feedback. So yeah, that's when the brand really began, and I've just kept it up. So
I love that. And I do believe that I saw that video of you dancing.
you and about 1,000 other people, actually.
Yeah,
I've had a lot of hits on that. Yeah.
Yes. I thought, wow, that's awesome.
It's
I love
daring.
to dance. And, I don't know that I would have the courage to do that on a video. And I was like, oh man, that's fun. Why not?
That's right. That's kind of what happened. Yes, it did. And also, as part of my brand, real quick, Casey Luck is happy. So that's one thing. I am normally a happy person, but one thing I don't do is ever show anything negative. Like when I'm having a bad day, I won't post. Or the pandemic has been challenging, but I tried to do everything upbeat about the pandemic. So yeah, that's part of my brand as well, is to keep things positive.
Ooh,
so yeah,
that's powerful. That's really strong. And that's a strong association. And one that I don't know that people even realize. When this is the great thing about a brand, and I'm speaking specifically of your brand, because I would never look at you. I'm a marketing person, so I'm used to kind of analyzing certain things to see. But even myself, I would never have said her brand is being happy and entertaining. It just naturally is that. And that's what a brand should be. It should be authentic and natural. And nobody should feel like you're pushing an agenda or any kind of a fake persona to be that person. So kudos to you on that. You do an amazing job doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so I think it would be helpful for those listening in who still aren't sure what a brand really is, or maybe they're getting an idea of it, but they need to understand, okay, how do I find my own personal brand? Maybe I don't smile a lot, or maybe I'm kind of bitchy, or maybe I don't like to dance and I have no sound. I can't sing for anything. What do I do? What kind of, I'm not an entertainer. And so maybe we can talk through a few ideas of what a brand actually means. Like for me, when I think of myself, my brand, my Suzie Carr Curves Welcome brand, it's facing and embracing the curves of life. And I do that with all the stories I tell. It's taking a character who then learns something and shares that and grows from the triumphs and the disappointments and all of that stuff in her life. And so everything I do, podcasting, blogging, video work, any posts I put out on social media, they are all in that context of learn it, share it, acquire information and share it. And all my books are like that, where I want to learn about beekeeping. Okay, let's go to a bee apiary and talk to some bee experts and write a book about bees and stuff like that. I want to scuba dive. All right, let's go scuba diving in Bonnie, or let's get certified. Let's freak yourself out and dive 70 feet in the ocean and tell people how it feels. So that's one idea of a brand. So we've got your brand and we've got my brand. Can you think of any off the top of your head of what other authors maybe are doing that are their brand? Like maybe somebody who has a very strong brand.
So ironically, there's an author named Anna Stone. And so she writes, but her brand is actually all just graphics. So she's made it a mysterious sort of brand. And that's kind of a cool effect. So when she does make an appearance in one of her groups, or actually posts something of it more like a comment, it is a big deal. It is a big deal because she does not do things publicly. She's like the total opposite of me. You know, not that she's not happy all the time, and she might be happy all the time, but we don't know that. That's kind of the mystery. So it's kind of cool how she's branded herself, and the thing is, she's been very consistent, and that's really important with your brand. You have to stick with it. So yeah, so that's definitely one. Another one that comes to mind is like Lisa Gold. She's well known for traveling. Her brand is the traveling author. Yes, the one who drinks wine and goes to beautiful places and writes in wonderful, courtyards. So yes, she's also got a big brand, and it works really well. And she has to stay in character. She has to make sure that she's always talking about traveling when she posts. In her newsletter she does, on her posts she does, and her books represent that. So it's perfect. It's a perfect brand.
Yeah, that's a really great example. Absolutely great example, because you're right. When I look at her posts, it's always about traveling or food, or there's she takes beautiful photography of herself in her settings, and a wine glass and a beautiful backgrounds. And it's really beautiful. So when readers buy a book of hers, they know what to expect. Right. And I think that might be an important point, knowing that consistency brings a level of comfort and expectation to your readers. Yeah. And most people don't really enjoy change. They like that. They like knowing that they have that comfort level. You're always going to get this when you buy a book from this author. And yeah.
And that really translates. Because basically you think of it like you go to the grocery store and you pick up a can of peaches. And when you open it, if it's a can of green beans, you're going to be very upset. You're not going to be very happy. So you need to make sure that what you promote is also what you put in your books. It's also the person that you are, because people are going to expect that. So yeah, they pick up one of Lisa's books and they think of travel. They pick up one of my books, it's going to be positive. Sometimes a little erotic positive, but everything always ends super well and everybody's super happy in my books. So even the darkness ones. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And it makes me think about when an author maybe has two different genres that she likes to write in. So for instance, I've toyed with the idea of writing books that are not necessarily fiction, but nonfiction. And I've done that under my name, my Suzie Carr brand. And they didn't do well because people aren't buying a Suzie Carr book to learn about how to be productive in life or how to run a salon. So that brings me to the point of importance here with branding is, I think if an author is going to branch out into two very different sectors in the writing world, that each one needs their own brand.
Right.
Because it's going to be the same thing. If they buy a book on productivity from Suzie Carr, they're not expecting to learn they think they're going to get a novel about characters who are learning and growing in life, not necessarily a how-to book. So
who's perfect, done that perfectly though, is Jay.
Oh yes,
Jay. And then of course her real name is Sandra Undurth, and she writes books about writing under Sandra, and she writes all her romance under Jay.
Yes,
so she has done it masterfully. Yes, it's been perfect.
Tell me, what do you think is important when somebody is considering creating their own personal brand? What are some of the most critical factors that they should be thinking about?
Well, definitely take the time to think about it. And I mean, really think about, what do I want to maintain? Don't pick something that you're not. You have to be authentic. I am normally a happy person, and the few days that I'm not happy, I don't post, but that doesn't mean it's not authentic. You have to pick something that you are happy with forever, maybe. So be sure to do that. Make sure it's yourself, and make sure it's something you want to maintain, and something that you feel strongly about as far as consistency. And then that's who you're going to have to be. I've seen a movie actually about a character. I can't think of the name of the movie right now, but about a magician who always did a trick as an old man. But in real life, he was a young man. But his persona, every time he went outdoors and so people could see him, he had to dress as an old man to pull off that trick. And so that's as extreme as you can get. But you have to make sure that it's something you're going to be able to stick with every single time. So,
yeah, that's really good advice. If you pursue anything in life, I don't care if it's writing or exercise or a diet, if it's not realistic and you can't maintain that for the rest of your life, really, then you might mess up along the way, and then you're gonna have to start all over again. So, all right, I have a good example. I think about the keto diet.
Oh,
now I did the keto diet for 2 years. I did it 2 years ago, I should say, and I did it for about a year and a half, and I did fine. But then I got really tired of eating fat. Just that's all I eat is fat, quality fat. I wanted a fruit. I wanted, I wanted certain vegetables. I wanted a potato, and it's not a diet that's realistic or maintainable over the long term.
Right.
You have to go off of it so that your body can get those nutrients. And so it's the same principle really as with a brand or any kind of anything that you pursue. If you can't maintain it, is it going to stick? And that's the thing, is it going to stick?
In a way, you have to be passionate about it. If there's no passion behind it, there's not much passion behind a diet ever, I'm sure, but you have to be passionate about a lifestyle. If you want to stick to a diet like that. You have to be passionate about being an author, specifically a branded author. You have to have some passion to do it. Otherwise, you'll get bored, you'll get frustrated, and you might want to change, which would be horrible to try to do. So we can talk about that later, but if you want to, but that would be impossible almost for Casey Luck to try to do.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about that now, because that's a very interesting concept, because I think that, I've toyed with that idea of, just like I said, going out on a totally different brand now, because I've written 14 books and I'm like, okay, I feel like maybe it's time to try to explore something else. But in doing that, do you water down? Is the Curves Welcome Suzie Carr being watered down? Trying to build something else up. And that's a very scary place for someone to be when you've had success and you're kind of, you're taking a risk. But sometimes those risks are worth it. And what would you say to somebody who's in that kind of mindset where they're not, maybe they've started off on the wrong foot? Let's go with that. So they wrote maybe a book or two, they post certain ways, they've branded themselves as a certain persona, and they're like, this isn't me, this isn't who I want to be, I want to change, and I want to be who I really am. And how do they do that if it's a complete 180? Like, what would you say to somebody who maybe is struggling with that?
Struggling with that, yeah. Well, if you're going to do it within the same genre, it's going to be very, very difficult. If you step out and you do like traditional straight fiction, like we talked about, then it'd be a lot easier, which is actually what I'm doing. I write under another name when I'm doing that. I don't write as Casey Luck. So that keeps the two brands separate. I need to make that change. If you're going to do it in the same niche, basically, which is, women loving women fiction, has its own reader group, has its own culture and community, and they see you a certain way. Let's say you started off and for some reason you got tagged as controversial, which would be a negative tag. So you want to try to, fix that. Then you're going to have to work doubly hard, maybe triply hard, to promote yourself as the opposite, basically. And that's require a lot of work. That's going to require a lot of social media work. It's going to require a lot of podcasts. Even in the podcast, maybe mentioning that, hey, that's not really me. That was an accident, and this is the real me. So yeah, you're just and probably that's probably a good way to look at it too. You might want to own the fact that you're making the change and be transparent.
Yes.
So I think that would also really help a lot. If I was going to change to something other than Casey Luck, I would have to let people know that that's happened. I can't just cut them off, and not have Casey Luck anymore, because that would be unfair. They'd be tricked if I suddenly enter another name. Yeah. And that's the last thing we want them to ever feel. So yes, transparency and consistency. Yeah.
Yeah. Transparency is so big. Wow. That authenticity that speaks to that. I want to pick your brain about the fact that you are considering writing in a different genre altogether, and you write under a different name. how do you separate the two? Do you have to go and have all brand new social media accounts for this new pen name that maybe you're writing under for this new genre? And you have to have a new website. And so now you're doing, like, I think about doing that because, like I said, I write nonfiction work, and I really want to be able to publish that under my legal name, which is Denise.
Yeah.
My middle name is Suzie. So I'd write it under my first name instead.
Right.
But, and be transparent about, well, this is actually who I am in the business sense, and this is who I am in the fictional sense. But that sounds like a lot of work. Like, how do you, now you have to maintain two brands, but
Yes.
you do, right? In essence, it's
Yes.
kind of how you're going to be successful in both of them, I'm imagining.
Yes. And I'm also going to take on a third brand because I like torturing myself. Yeah. So I'm also going to start, doing some coaching. So I'm taking classes to become a coach for other authors, maybe more like mentoring.
Yeah.
And that will be under my real name. And I'll promote that outside of our niche, most likely. There might be some in there, but that would be a recommendation from Casey Luck about it. But that would be it's another website. That's another LinkedIn account. That's another person who has a page that's completely dedicated to that. And so, yeah, it's a huge effort, but it's also how you are successful. So,
right. It's really wanting that goal is to be successful. If you're going to do something, pursue it with everything you have, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, don't do it, or maybe do it for the fun of it. But if you really want to do it and be successful as a brand, you really need to focus and make sure you're consistent with that brand. It doesn't mean that your brand can't be the same persona. You could still be entertaining as this new writing under Kathy as you can under KC, but it's the level of work and the kind of work that you do in those two different brands that are going to dictate who your readers are going to be. And there's also that cross type of promotion as well. I mean, if people love your writing as Casey Luck, I'm sure they're going to love your writing as Kathy Chance as well. And so there is that little bit of cross promotion to make them aware through that transparency, I'm assuming, right?
Right. Yeah, there'll be a little bit. But I also want to make sure that it is totally transparent, that it is a different subject matter. And you have to make sure that otherwise I keep saying this, but I don't want people to ever feel tricked.
Yes.
And that your brand has to be authentic and consistent.
So like, it's almost like you make an announcement in a way. Like, so I would imagine you get on a video and you'd be like, hey, look, everyone, I'm going to be writing a new set of books under Kathy Chance.
Yeah.
I just want to let you know, put it out there so that you're not confused if and that right there kind of covers you in a way so people can't say, oh my God, who is Kathy? What? Oh, I feel tricked, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Because I myself feel like I'm going to be coming up against that too, because under my legal name, I'm starting a new talk show, an online talk show, live talk show with one of my mentors from my graduate program. And that's all going to be done under my legal name. And it's going to be visible and on YouTube and on LinkedIn. And there may be some people maybe see me on both platforms. I don't know somehow, but I want to be transparent. So, I'm thinking maybe I need to make a little announcement on my Suzie Carr platforms just to kind of make them aware that don't get confused if you see me as Denise, because that's who I am as well. I'm the same person, just different platforms.
Yes.
I think people might appreciate that if you can kind of be honest like that.
Definitely think so. I definitely think they will. And also think it'd be super supportive. If you let people know you're trying a new endeavor and they like you under just Casey Luck, if they like me as a person, they're going to be excited that I want to try something else. So as long as I promise to still write some more books for them.
Yes, I know.
I can't give up entirely. So.
Exactly. Casey, is there anything else that you'd want to share with my listeners before we close out this episode today?
I did publish a book on New Year's Eve. Let me think about it for a second. Not Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, about a vampire. It's a vampire romance. So that's out for people if they haven't picked that up. It's a Menandy, and it's out there under Casey Luck. And I'm also working on, this is a big announcement, I am also working on a new book in the darkness setting. So the Darkness Falls and the Darkness trilogy, which I have been promising for a while, is going to come out probably in April. So yeah, so that will be a big deal for a number of readers who have followed those pretty closely. So that's next. That's next, and then it'll be a Billionaires, of course. So yes, we should have another Billionaires by the end of the year. But
Yay! I'll be
yeah,
tuning into that.
yeah, that's what I'm working on. That's what I'm working on right now, along with the other endeavors. And also, if people don't see me much on Facebook, I've gotten some messages actually. Then this is why. I'm actually everything is fine. still having a good time. I just have split up my time a little bit. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. How can people connect with you?
Obviously Facebook. Just search for Casey Luck author, and you find my Facebook page, and then ask to be a friend if you're not already. Like I say, there I also have a page. Casey Luck is also a page on the Facebook platform. I have an Instagram account also under Casey Luck author. I have a website. It's casey-luck.com. So again, you got to be consistent. See how consistent this brand is. If you look for Casey Luck somewhere, you're probably going to find me. If you Google me, you're going to find me. So yeah, you can also do that. Just Google me. You'll see LinkedIn and all those accounts. So yes, easy to follow me. I have a very, very big, very clear trail.
Excellent. Casey, it's been great talking with you today. Thank you so much for coming on to the Curves Welcome podcast.
It's been my pleasure. I've had a great time, Suzie.
Hey friends, thanks for spending time with me today. I hope you enjoyed today's topic. If there is something you'd enjoy exploring in a future podcast, please reach out to me via my website at curveswelcome.com and I'll work it in. While you're there, grab a free story too. It's my way of thanking you for your support of my podcast and romance novels. Also, be sure to follow the Curves Welcome podcast channel to keep up on the latest episodes. So thanks for tuning in. Until next time, go out there and continue to learn, grow, and embrace life's curves.